Welcome to Getting Geeky with Game Relief. If you're new, welcome to the show. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. If you're old, welcome back. Either way, we appreciate it and we appreciate your support. Go ahead and sign up for our mailing list so you can get exclusive content and podcasts somewhat before they release through the other audience. We also will be bringing you a giveaway, especially starting next Thursday, which I believe is the 26th of April, 2018. So if you're past that point or something, you may not be able to, but if you are, go ahead and sign up. Either way, sign up because it's a great way to find out what we have going on. But anyways, I hope you enjoy this interview. I actually had the opportunity to sit down with a kindred spirit in that I found a gamer who loves a music I love. Actually, it is kind of like bluegrass, but it's not bluegrass. We'll talk a little bit about it. I hope he's okay with me using his music. I did buy it on Bandcamp, and you can too. If he has a problem with it, I'll make sure I pull it down and edit the episode. But I hope he doesn't, because I needed a filler while he had to go get his phone because he was being a considerate gamer, like you all should when you go to game night. But anyways, here's my interview with William, who has a new game on Kickstarter.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Welcome to Getting Geeky with Game Relief. Tonight, we're lucky enough to have on the creator mastermind, or one of them behind a game. I know you've heard of drafting cards. Recently, they had a game on Kickstarter a while back ago that was sword crafting, where you're crafting a sword. So I for sure thought this one was interesting, where you're not creating a sword, but you're actually drafting a dragon, which you could kill with the said sword or whatnot. It's called Draft a Dragon, the dragon crafting card game, and we're lucky enough to have on one of the creators and masterminds behind this, William Ritter. Is that correct? Is that how you fall into line with Draft a Dragon, the dragon crafting card game, William?
Yeah. I actually haven't seen the sword crafting game. I'd be interested in seeing that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We backed it. I don't know. My wife said, I want to say she says we'll get it sometime within this year or whatnot. They may, I don't know if they still have it where you can pre-order it or not, but yeah, it was on there a while back ago. Let's see here. It's called Sword Crafters. I think that's what it's called. Sword Crafters. It was funded back in March. It was by Adam of Adam Apple Games. Yeah, you can actually, after we're done here, if you want, I can go ahead and, or I guess I could send it to you right now. The fangles of all the new technology we have with the internet or whatnot. But yeah, they're still taking pre-orders. It looks like. Let me see if I can get a link over to you really quick if you want. Let's see here. There we go. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and send a link over to you. But yeah, so I just sent that over to you via the Facebook Messenger. But yeah, so once you go ahead and create the dragon with your card game, then you can turn around and kill it after you play Sword Crafters.
Well, in the making of Draft a Dragon, no dragons were harmed. But yeah.
Well, there you go. Yeah, you got to say that, don't you?
Yeah.
Kind of, you don't want to get those dragon activists after you or whatnot.
No, definitely not.
Well, there you go. So yeah, we appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief with us tonight, William. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Glad we can catch up or whatnot. So in regard to this game, so you are one of the masterminds and creators of it, or how do you fit in line with it?
Yeah, I've been referring to myself as the co-designer. My friend Tanner Johnson and I, we sort of came up with the game together. He had the first idea for it. He had brought up that he'd like to see a drafting game that where you draft parts of dragons. Of course, he didn't mean it quite as literally as I took it. But I thought he actually meant like he'd be stacking the cards together to build your dragon. And so I got excited about it. I went home and I made a prototype. And when I brought it back, he said, "That's not what I meant, but I really like it. Let's stick with that."
Uh-oh, so you kind of messed it up, but you didn't. He liked it. That's good.
You're right. Yeah, it was a little bit of a miscommunication that turned into a really fun idea. We sort of stumbled upon it in a way.
Well, there you go. There you go. Whatever it takes. They say it takes a village sometimes.
Right. And so basically over the past 2 years, we just continued to work on it, sometimes in a big flurry of activity and other times just a little bit here and there, but pretty regularly. When we both lived in Silva, North Carolina, we don't now. We live about 2 or 3 hours apart, but at that time, we worked on it a lot together, and got together with various board game groups. We had one that met at a brewery that's since defunct now, but we met there a lot. As we had a group called Men's Monday, which wasn't gendered. I don't know. I didn't come up with a name, but anyways, we worked on the game a lot there.
Well, there you go. Before we get into the game and whatnot and everything that come of it, let's rewind a little bit if we could, William. We don't have to go all the way back, of course, unless you were born into tabletop board gaming and card games. But how did you get your started into playing of tabletop and card games? Or do you just play card games, or are you into the whole it sounds like you might be into the whole tabletop board game, because you gave me a question for Jamie Stigmeyer, so it sounds like you might be in the industry or whatnot. But how did you get started to playing tabletop board games, what they are today or whatnot?
Well, it's funny because my family didn't play a lot of games like that. I remember a few vague memories of us playing like Monopoly and some stuff like that. But I always had an interest in tabletop games. Though I didn't have a lot of really people my age that were very interested in it. I probably, when I was younger, if anything, I played a lot more like, Magic, The Gathering, and a few things like that. A lot more card games, but I had a great interest and love for board games. Just at that time, they weren't that accessible.
Oh, okay. So you talked to Monopoly and whatnot. So what was there? I know you talked to Magic and whatnot. Was there? How did you get into tabletop board gaming after that? Like after Magic, did you find a game, or how'd that go?
Well, I remember getting like Warhammer figurines and painting them, and but I didn't have anyone to play with. It's not that I didn't have friends, but they just weren't interested in that sort of thing. But I also just always had an interest in board games, tabletop gaming, and also just from the beginning liked making my own games. I'm not sure why. My parents are both artists. That might have something to do with it.
Well, there you go. There you go. And it looks like this might so this isn't your first ride on Kickstarter or whatnot, not your first rodeo, but it doesn't look like the first one was actually a game. What was that, William?
No, no, that was for my wife and I's CD. For our we play like traditional sort of folk music, sort of southern mountain music, I guess you could say. And so that was our first one.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about it a little bit ago, a while back ago, and I listened to some of it. It sounds pretty good. Is that similar to bluegrass, though? I'm a big bluegrass fan. Is that kind of similar?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's definitely related. A little bit different. I love bluegrass. I play bluegrass myself.
There you go. So how is it a little bit different, though, you talk of?
A lot of what we do, the music's kind of based more in music from around maybe the 20s, up into the 30s a little bit, but back like in the 20s, you had like the Carter family and some of the very beginning kind of artists come on the scene, and they were doing this music that was a mixture of some contemporary, for the 20s stuff, but also things that went back, some old songs going all the way back to England and Scotland and Ireland, and but also a mixture of a lot of other things, like the banjo, of course, which the ancestor of the banjo came from Africa, West Africa, and so you have a lot of these kind of factors coming together to make this old timey music, is what we call it. but it's sort of some people say it's kind of like the predecessor to bluegrass.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it sounds like you had a successful campaign there, and that was your debut CD. Does that mean there's more than just that one? That was your first, of course.
There is another one that we are going to be sending off to have printed soon. We didn't do it through Kickstarter, but that'll be our second one. We actually sold out of all of our debut ones. We have to order some more of those too.
Well, there you go. So if anybody, I don't know if other tabletop gamers like that kind of music or whatnot. I know I do. So, but if they're interested, how would they go about finding out about your second album or whatnot, or being able to get your debut CD once you get some more ordered in or whatnot?
Well, first of all, they can go to Bandcamp. I guess it's bandcamp.com. And if you type in William Ritter or William Ritter and Sarah Ogletree, then that will pop up some of our songs that you can listen to you can listen to the whole album and all the songs, and you can also purchase them there if you want to download them.
Well, there you go. And you talked about CDs or whatnot. Have you made any vinyl?
Oh no, I wish. I wish it's kind of an expensive thing to do, but I would love to. I mean, it sounds so much better. Let's be honest.
There you go. Yeah, a while back ago. Well, I think this last week we released the episode or whatnot. But I sat down with the creator of, I don't know if you had heard of it, but there's currently a game on Kickstarter called Vinyl, where you go and collect records or whatnot in the record shop or whatnot.
Oh, fun! It's a good idea.
Yeah, and he talked about how there's a lot better sound on the vinyl as well.
Mm-hmm. And that's really come back in a big way. And I get it. Some friends and I, when we were in college, at like a Goodwill, I bought an old RCA record player. And I remember when we first, plugged it in and put some records on it, we all played in a band, but we felt like we were in the room with all these. It had this live, warm sound that came out of it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know a while back ago I was complaining. Well, mainly my wife says she can tell that I'm happy when I'm complaining. So we went into a Barnes and Noble a while back ago, and I was complaining about how prevalent it was. Like I love records and whatnot, but they were like really resurfacing. They had a bunch there in Barnes and Noble, and I kept complaining to her about it. Now they're down to only like the first rack as you go into the store. But I thought that was awesome that it's resurfacing as well.
Yeah.
So now, so that's awesome. So they can go to Bandcamp or whatnot and check out your music. But the word on the street is you currently have a new game on Kickstarter called Drafting a Dragon or whatnot. What can you tell us about that, William?
So Draft a Dragon, like I was saying earlier, is a game that we made. It's pretty similar to in terms of you like drafting games like Sushi Go or things like that. But the idea is that you draft a hand of cards and you create your dragon with various pieces. You have heads and you have tails, you have wings and sort of middle body pieces, and they're all kind of different, but you're trying to put them together and build the best dragon you can that's going to be worth more points than everyone else. And then there's kind of a second round of it where these action cards come into play, and they let you kind of sometimes swap cards with other players, pretty much to your benefit, usually to their dismay. And there's kind of a lot of swings and power can happen at that point of the game.
Cool, yeah, and that's if you remember to put the wings on or whatnot. I know in your Kickstarter video, it looks like you accidentally forgot them, so you had to draw them all.
Yeah, and that kind of happens a lot. Sometimes you'll have a piece that's not, maybe you forgot to take a head or you couldn't take a head because you're drafting your cards, so you get your hand, and then you pick one you want to keep, and then you pass the rest. And sometimes you don't get everything you want, but there's action cards that sometimes let you kind of complete your dragon. And it's not necessarily always a bad thing to be missing a part. It kind of plays into the game.
Well, that's pretty cool. So with you missing the part, when I know you drew the wings on or whatnot, did you actually draw the art for this game?
Yeah, I drew the art, and I did all the design and pretty much all that.
Well, that's pretty cool. There you go. So that's awesome. So per se, me and you were to sit down to play Draft a Dragon, the dragon crafting card game. How would that look? Or wait, I mean, how would it sound? This is a podcast after all, William.
Right. Well, so basically you need a little bit of space on a table, not a whole lot, but enough that you're going to build, maybe 4 to 7, even sometimes 8 or 9 cards worth of a dragon that you're going to be putting, kind of arranging in a line. And each player will basically end up, after they've drafted their cards, they build their dragon in front of them. And so you need about that much room, maybe. But any kind of normal card table would be plenty of room.
Okay, and then how does the play look, or what? How would our turns look? I mean,
Okay, so each player is going to get 7 cards, and these are the parts cards. So your hand's going to be full, like I said, of heads and body parts of various kinds. And then you'll pick one, and you'll keep that one, and you'll pass your hand. And of course, then the person next to you passes their hand to you, and you pick one and pass and pick and pass and pick and pass until you have worked down to 7 cards again. At that point, everyone builds their dragon simultaneously. And then at that point, everyone sort of tallies up what their dragon's worth at that moment, because you won't actually count the scoring until the very, very end of the game. But at this point, you just count up. So you'll say there's various ways to score. One, you get a point for each dragon part card that you play. You'll also get a point for each time that you have 2 of the same type next to each other. So if you go onto our Kickstarter and you look at some of the pictures, you can see there's like a dragon that's kind of made out of feathers and is yellow. There's a dragon that's kind of like a water dragon. He sort of looks like a shark. If you get 2 of those cards next to each other anywhere, that's going to be an additional point. Then it's that you'll get -1 point if you have a wound, and a wound is where, like you were talking about earlier, if you don't have a wing where there's a space that a wing should go, that's going to be -1 points for every time that happens. And then there's a big bonus, like a 5-point bonus, if your dragon's made all out of one type. And then there's a 7-point bonus if you have 1 of each point in your dragon, kind of like a dragon flush. Pretty hard to get, and kind of hard to hold on to too. And so then at that point, once you determine whose dragon's worth the most, that everyone's gonna give out 5 action cards, and it's just gonna say same thing. You're gonna draft the action cards, and action cards kind of allow you to do different things. Sometimes, let's say for example, you can have a dragon that has 2 or 3 heads, and there's a card that says if your dragon has the most heads, you get +3 points. And so there's a lot of cards like that. That's sort of based on what your dragon is like. If you can get those action cards, you can get extra points. So you draft those as well, just like you did earlier. And then at that point, when you get up to 5 action cards, then that's when you're going to, the player that's dragon is currently worth the most is going to go first, play 1 action card, and play just goes around.
okay, cool. And so it sounds like it's got that with the whole card drafting that you talked of. You said you pick and pass. I remember playing that. One of our favorite games is actually called Seasons by Asmodee or whatnot, where you go ahead and you actually pick a card and then you pass it or whatnot. I really like that mechanic.
Yeah, no, it's I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So, and it sounds like you might be a bit biased seeing how this is your game or whatnot. So, per se, they don't want to necessarily take your word for it. Are there any reviewers that have reviewed Draft a Dragon that they might check out, William?
No, we didn't get any reviewers for this project. I'd sort of laid some plans to do it, but the timing didn't end up working out because we were approached by this board game cafe if we wanted to launch our Kickstarter with their first anniversary of being in business. And it was sort of a great opportunity, so we wanted to jump on it, but it kind of made the timing bad for getting a reviewer.
So how did that go down exactly? That's kind of interesting. What can you tell us about doing that?
So Tanner, who I haven't mentioned very much, but he's the one that designed the game with me. He is really, really into tabletop games. I always kind of had like a obscure hobby of making games just for fun, but he has, it's like you know, a year ago he had over 100 games. I hate to think how many he has now, but it was just a real passion of his, and he actually turned it into a job. He works now as the game master at a well-played board game cafe in Asheville, North Carolina. And it's a really, I'd never actually been to one of these places, but I really like, I haven't been to others, so I don't know how it's different, but essentially they have like over 500 games there. And when you come in and, sit with your friends, and you can order a beer and get something to eat. But then the game master comes up and asks you, if you want what you might want to play, and he can give you advice. He can tell you how to play any of the games. And it's really, really, really fun.
So he's like the waiter, but for games?
Yeah, and he's almost like the manager, but for games. But he'll come around to the tables, and a lot of the wait staff are like really familiar with the games too. But he's like the game master. He sort of knows them all, I guess. So, anyways, that's the business he works at, and they said, "Hey, do you want to do your launch date on this? We're going to throw a big party." And we said, "Oh gosh, let's do it."
Oh, there you go. So how did that party go?
It was great. It was crazy. I lost my voice by the end of it, but I was really affirming. We had lots and lots of people playing Draft a Dragon, and we just got a really positive response, especially a lot with the artwork, which I like you said, when you work on it yourself, it's kind of hard to know. You have your own kind of criticism of it, but it's good to see what other people are saying, especially when they're not like, your good friends or your family or something like that.
For sure. So yeah, let's see here. So did you do a lot of play testing with this?
Yeah, we did. I probably made just about everyone I know play Draft a Dragon over a 2-year period.
Well, there you go. During that, was there ever anything that you had to scrap because it just wouldn't work?
Oh gosh, yeah. We actually had a whole set of action cards that were like, you get points if you had the ugliest dragon, and you get points if you had like the handsomest dragon. But we found that players were very dishonest, and also, it was hard for them to agree on whose was the worst or the best, in those terms.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that's kind of a biased decision or whatnot, because
right, yeah, we just scrapped that really soon. Yeah, and we also had there was like a double a wing card that was so big it took up 2 cards, and it actually was pretty fun in the game, but I really felt like I wanted to pare back. It's easy to get into a game where you make too many special rules, I think. And sometimes you just want to I think it's helpful to minimize that, particularly when you get into writing rules. You don't want to have just tons of like, this one card only works this one way.
For sure. So yeah, so that's awesome. And one of my fans, his name is Jeremy. I hate to slaughter his last name, so I won't even try. But he likes it when I ask the different designers or whatnot, how they knew the game was ready to go to Kickstarter, or how they knew the game was done or whatnot. So how did you know that, William?
Well, gosh, I mean, I feel like we really had it at a point where it was done probably a year ago. And since then, we just mostly been tweaking like the artwork, and sort of we scaled back a few things. Like I said, we kind of trimmed a little fat over the way. But it's been done for a while. I remember reading, of course, now my name's blanking, but the Stonemaier games, Jamie, yeah. So he wrote in his book, which I felt was very helpful. But one thing he says, like, you don't have to launch today. And so even though we felt like we'd had it done about a year ago, I just kept just kind of taking my time with it. And I think the more you have a chance for a project you're working on, if you can, sometimes it's not feasible, but you can kind of let it stew. I think that's always helpful. And the more eyes you can get on it, the better. I think it's a very important book, I think, to read, especially if you want to try to launch something on Kickstarter. I think he has a lot of really good advice, but it's not necessarily targeted just towards people who are putting games on there. But it probably would benefit them the most. And I even wish maybe it'd been just a little bit more specific just to games, but I understand. I'm sure he and the publisher wanted to make it a little more broad.
Well, there you go. That's cool. Yeah, I just recently had him on the show. Well, not necessarily had him on the show, but I just interviewed him, and we actually asked a couple of questions that you had for him. Those actually will come up on the show, so we'll make sure we let you know, because he'll be coming up on the show probably within the next month sometime. Not sure when, but we'll let you know so he does answer some of your questions that you had for him.
Yeah, I mean, for one thing, I mean, his games speak for themselves, and they're beautifully done, and he gets really good artists, and you can tell he puts a lot of time and passion into him. But I really was impressed by his book. It's really helpful, especially in terms of some of the fulfillment kind of advice he gives. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we didn't necessarily put into, of course, our project, because we were keeping it pretty simple. But I really highly recommend it.
Well, there you go. Like I said, we'll go ahead and leave a link in the show notes or whatnot. You talk about his games being good, and I know you really like your game. But my audience, they would probably have me run out in the street and hung if I let you pick your own game. So currently, besides Draft a Dragon, do you have a favorite game that you're currently like?
Oh man. I mean, that's been this great thing about going to this board game cafe, is that you can just pop in and pick up a game you've never seen before. I will say that at our house, Sushi Go is particularly popular. But there was one I played recently that I really liked all around, that you were like building like a stained glass window.
What is it? Is that Sagaro or what's that? Sagaro, or I forget how to even say it, but
yeah, I don't remember the name, but the art design and the idea was just really compelling.
Yeah, I think it's either Azul. I don't know if Azul or Sagaro, or however you say it. I think it's one of those. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't think of a. Yeah, no, it's kind of hard to pick one. I don't think I've had one that I've leaned more than the other.
Yeah, there's too many games out there, but you talk about Sushi Go being a favorite at your home. I think we had that. It's been a long time since I played it. So per se, somebody is like me, they have short-term memory loss, and perhaps they've forgotten about that game or have never played it or whatnot. What can you tell us about Sushi Go?
Well, I mean, it has this adorable little artwork of little happy sushi pieces with smiling faces, but it's a card game. I mean, like Draft a Dragon. And again, it's the kind of draft where you get a hand of cards and you pick one and you pass. And in that case, you're trying to kind of create sets of particular sushi combinations that get you the most points. And you want to be careful to make sure you take your pudding, which isn't worth anything until the very, very, very end of the game, because I guess it's your dessert. But it's a really simple game, and I've played it with a lot of different age groups, and it's a really nice, quick kind of breaking the ice game. That's something that I think is appealing to me about Draft a Dragon. I like the deep games that have a lot of moving parts and take hours or sometimes days to play. Those are fun, but it's I like quick games though too. I think that's a really helpful thing, and more people seem to be open to those.
Cool. Yeah, for sure. I know I like a quick game, especially with we have 5 kids, and it's kind of hard to get stuff to the table with everything that has to go on. So if it's a quicker game, it might be a little bit quicker and easier to get it to the table or whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes it's nice to have a game like that that's like you're waiting for that one person for game night that's always late. So you play that until they get there.
For sure. So yeah, so per se, so that sounds like an awesome game. So per se, somebody's falling asleep, William. It wouldn't be because of you or your game that you have up there or whatnot. It'd be because they get tired of hearing me drone on and on. At the time of this recording, which is the middle of April, we just had barely released our 56th episode of the year, so they get a little bit tired of me. But now they're suddenly jolted awake, and you have so they don't hit the oncoming traffic, and you have their full attention now, William. Why should they take a chance on Draft a Dragon, the dragon crafting card game, especially with all the other great games out there on Kickstarter now, William?
I know that they can't obviously take a chance on everybody out there on Kickstarter right now. I mean, I think Draft Dragon. One thing I particularly like about it that I've said that is something that I think has made it really appealing to people. I mean, there's kind of the whimsical artwork, and it's pretty punny. It's got a lot of kind of like goofy humor in it, but there's this kind of a feeling you get when you like kind of build your dragon and make it. So even if you end up ultimately losing the game, it's not soul crushing. I mean, it's still fun even when you lose. I mean, maybe that seems obvious for a lot of games, but like, I think Monopoly is fun until you lose. And then it's like, I mean, really kind of, crushing, I think. But Draft Dragon's not really like that. That's one thing that I think is particularly appealing. And also with kids, now, of course, there's like government regulations with saying how much you can say that a game is for a certain age group, because I don't know, they could choke on playing cards.
Oh, yeah, you better put that in the disclaimer. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I can't really say that it's like that it's for kids under a certain age without having independent testing done, and that costs like thousands of dollars, and there's no way that would make any kind of practical sense. But it really is fun for lots of different age groups, and I've seen even like really, really young kids just enjoy like building dragons and kind of come up with their own. Just kind of enjoy the artwork and the cards themselves and making dragons, and enjoy that part a lot, and even come up with some of their own games that Tanner and I have kind of talked about writing up some rules for.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, make sure you check out that disclaimer, and we'll give one here on Getting Geeky with Game Relief, that they can't legally advertise this game for kids ages 12 or younger without really expensive third-party testing. So, but if you do decide to play it with your kids, make sure they don't bite off a corner and end up choking on it, just so you...
Right.
Just to cover both you as a parent as well as William and what was it, Tanner? Yeah, William and Tanner, who designed this game. You want to make sure you cover everybody's behinds, I guess, if you will.
Right. Yeah. And I just doubt that we would get into any kind of trouble with that. But, I guess I'd rather be on the up and up.
Yeah, you never know. And another great thing I like is that there were no dragons harmed in the creating of this.
No. Yeah.
So there you go. And it looks like at the time of this recording, by the time we release this, they'll have in between 2 weeks and a week to back this. It looks like you're about, at the time of the recording, you have about halfway to your goal. And they have through, let's see here, the 28th of April to back this great game, it looks like. So if they take a chance on Draft a Dragon, the dragon crafting card game, I know you don't want to over-promise and under-deliver, William, but when would they anticipate getting their game?
This would be sometime in August, and that's just because of printing.
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, there you go. You can play that pretty quick here then.
Right. Basically, as soon as we got them in, we would be sending them right back out. We're gonna have a big boxing party, so that'll be fun.
At the cafe or whatnot?
That would be a good idea. We weren't thinking of doing it there, but that, I don't know. It would depend on the logistics. The cafe's not that big, but we did do something that I think is kind of interesting. We created like a local pickup, and it's at the Well Played Board Game Cafe. So if you live in the Nashville area or somewhere close, or maybe you're not that close and you want to make a trip to it, you can, instead of paying shipping, you can go pick up your own copy there.
Well, there you go. Cool. That's awesome. So there you go. And let's see here. Are you on any other podcasts, or can we officially say you heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief about Draft a Dragon, the dragon crafting card game?
Oh yeah, definitely first podcast.
Well, there you go. That's awesome. I for some reason, I like to say that quite a bit. So that's awesome. So yeah, and like I said, we'll go ahead and make sure we leave a link in the show notes so they can go ahead and check that out without having to go ahead and type it in their phone or whatnot. They can just click on the link. I know I like to do that as better instead of having to type everything in, especially with all the great games out there on Kickstarter. They're constantly dropping more and more.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how many projects are on there, and especially just for games. Um, so yeah, you're right. It's great to be able to just kind of click and go. We do have our website, which is draft dash dragon.weebly.com. And there's some kind of backstory to the game and some different things. And then also, of course, a link straight to the Kickstarter.
Oh, cool. Make sure we leave a link for that in the show notes as well. So that's awesome. So let's see here. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It looks like a pretty cool game. So we'll make sure we leave the links in there and whatnot. Now, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to listen to any of our podcasts. I think I might have already asked you that. And if not, that's okay either way. But the next section of our podcast is called Adventures in Application Acquisition, where we talk about an app, be it for a cell phone, a tablet, a computer, or even a video game. And it doesn't even necessarily have to do with drafting games or tabletop board games or even dragons for that matter. Is there an app you use a lot of that we can talk about for a moment, William?
Oh, an app that I use a lot of. Off the top of my head, I can't think of one.
What about off the top of your phone? Is it nearby or not?
No, it's not. I mean, I could run over to the other room and grab it really quick.
Oh, that's okay. Well, yeah, whatever you want to do. If you want, you can, but you don't have to.
Oh, sure. Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay, awesome. And I meant to say that was very considerate for you not to bring your phone along so as not to get interrupted by a phone call or whatnot.
Right. Yeah, I tried to leave it in the other room. There's two that I use a lot, and they're completely dissimilar from each other. But one is I have a moon calendar that helps me know what astrological signs and moon sides to plant crops and do your like gardening work with. It's this particular one, it's just called Moon Calendar, and there's a lot of them out there, but it tells you sort of what phase of the moon you're in, and sort of if it's a bad time or a good time. And I don't know that any of it really works, but it is kind of fun to try to sort of use a kind of an ancient method.
I was going to ask, how's your garden doing then?
It's a little cold right now, so I haven't really set anything out there yet. But I've got a lot of little tomatoes that I started from seed that are like heirlooms that I got from people's families, that are kind of rare and special. In fact, I got one from Tanner Johnson, who made this game Draft Dragon with me. I got some seeds from, I believe, his grandmother or great grandmother that are a tomato that's been like in his family.
Well, there you go. That's awesome. And so did you plant that according to the app or not?
I did. It said that it was a good day. And so I put the seeds in my window and started them.
And it's turning out okay, or it hasn't started blooming yet?
Oh yeah, they look beautiful. I've got the best tomato plants around.
Awesome. Yeah, I love tomatoes. That's awesome. So, and what's the name of the app called again?
I think it's just called Moon Calendar.
Oh, okay. So was that a free app, or is that something you have to pay for? Or?
Yeah, it's free, and it's very minimal in terms of ads. In fact, I can't even find one on it right now. I have it open.
Well, there you go. That's awesome. So if you own the rights to Moon Calendar, what would be one thing you would do to make it a better app, William?
Well, I kind of like the way it works, though it's sometimes a little bit hard to navigate a little, or it's got like almost like more information than I would ever need. And I wish there was some way I could be kind of selective in what I really care about. Because I don't really, I'm not interested in my organ rhythms or whether it's a good day to clean my house. Like, I really just want to worry about the garden.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, we try to make a green podcast around here, William. So if anybody that has anything to do with moon calendars ever listening or whatnot, you heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief, what William would do to make that a better app.
Right. But I use it a lot.
There you go. Yeah, we'll have to check it out. We'll leave a link in the show notes and whatnot. So that's awesome. Now, we don't want to keep you all night, William, but we do appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. Minus coming there to North Carolina, which it sounds like you might be from. How would people go to stalk you personally? How would people go about finding out more about this game or your music or other games or anything like that in the future?
Well, I do have a website, sort of the website share with my wife and I, that's primarily for our music, but I also have a blog on there that I write on periodically. And so it includes different kind of things that I'm involved in, whether it's card games or, heirloom tomatoes or the music that we do. And so that is sarahandwilliam.weebly.com.
Okay, cool. We'll make sure to leave a link in the show notes and whatnot. But yeah, like I said, we don't want to keep you all night. I know it's probably getting pretty late there, but we appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem. I hope you all enjoyed that interview. If you can make it through the rest of William's song, then you'll be pleased with Kickstarter Corner.
Dark and curly, and her cheeks like the roses red. On her breast she wore white lilies, where I longed to lay my head. Rather be in some dark hollow, where the sun will never shine, and for you to be another man's darling, and no longer Rather be in some dark hollow, where the sun will never shine, and for you to be another man's darling, and no longer darling. My gate I chew in, and I'll always run to greet you. You're the girl I try to win. Rather be in some dark hollow, where the sun will never shine, and for you to be another man's darling, and no longer darling.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you, William. Thank you. Reminder, if you don't want me to have that on there, I'll go ahead and take it down. But anyways, now it's time for Kickstarter Corner. I thought that was a great segue. But anyways, let's get on with it, shall we? Yes, yes, we shall. So, we've got a couple great games to bring to you. I'm still alive, so that means the Swedish mob has yet to off me, and they still got a little bit of time on their Kickstarter. But let's go ahead and be true, shall we? Yes, let's be true, because we don't want to lie here on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. But anyways, let's get on with it, shall we? So, first off, we've got Mobsters Metropolis. Create your syndicate, rise to power. Invest in turfs and recruits, or conduct drive-bys in order to become the most powerful gangster boss in this 2 to 4 player strategy game. On Kickstarter through the 26th of April. That's when our contest is, so definitely check that one out. And we had an interview, so you can go back and listen to it. It's for 13 plus, so yeah, definitely. You want to be older or exercise parental guidance when letting people play this game. And then Dobbers Quest for the Key. It's on Kickstarter. Definitely check this one out. It's like a deck builder, and it's a roller coaster of fun. You finally have enough influence to acquire Flame, the fire-wielding sword from the Adventure Row. Yes, you place it in the discard pile to be shuffled into the personal deck and sit back with satisfaction, knowing it will soon be in your hand. If you failed to notice the new location card, Castle Walls on the board directly in front of your hero, and there's a creature under it with a weapon. How did your opponent sneak that out there? What creature is under you? Your only hope is the flame gets to your hand as soon as possible. Check out this great strategy deck builder. I really want to play it. It's by Splattered Ink Games, and it's on Kickstarter till the 18th of May. Then No Escape. No Escape is a competitive maze building. Take that game for 2 to 8 players. Definitely check this one out. They go through the 17th of May, and we have the creator on the show coming up, so watch out for that. Terminator Genisys, Rise of Resistance, a co-op 1 to 4 player action adventure game featuring an original campaign set in 2029 Terminator universe. Definitely check this one out. Arnold is back. He promised he would be back. And then Arena, the contest tabletop board game for miniatures, with miniatures. It's a fantasy tactical combat miniature tabletop 1 to 8 player with a competitive dungeon crawler and player versus player team competition. They got 8 days to go, going through the 26th of April. And then don't forget about Cat Rescue, the game of saving cats. Cat Rescue is a 1 to 4 player co-op game. Players work together to save cats and adopt them, just like in real life. How about 48 hours or less? By the time you hear this, ending the Thursday, the 19th of April. And they're making an app into that, or an app out of that. And then this one is kind of cool. It's the Exorcism at the House on Monkton Falls. Probably want to be 13 plus, but it's a cooperative game of cartoon horror for 2 to 4 players, taking about 60 minutes. It's a co-op worker movement set collecting game themed around the exorcism of ghosts taking up residence in a haunted house. Players take turns exploring the manor, searching for tools, unlocking hidden rooms, and using tools to complete a variety of tasks. It launched on Friday the 13th, and it goes through the 13th of May, so definitely check that one out. And then, you've played Dungeon Crawls, but have you ever played a Dungeon Brawl? Now you can. A Dungeon Brawl customizable free-for-all RPG board game. In this board game, your friends are now your enemies, vying for the treasure. Choose a class, create a deck, and destroy your friends. Your Dungeon Crawl has now become a Dungeon Brawl. I hope this fun. They go through they got 11 days to go, going through the 29th of April. Definitely check that out on the Kickstarters. And then don't forget about Swords and Cells. You probably listened to our interview just barely. If you haven't, go back to the previous episode and you'll be able to catch it. But rewrite history in 1000 AD. Swords and Cells is an epic conquest and diplomacy game about leading your armies and fleets through medieval Europe in 1000 AD. They have funded, yes they have funded, and they go through next Saturday, the 28th of April. Last but not least, well, we already talked about this one, so you don't need to hear about it again because you've already heard about No Escape. But definitely check out these great games on the Kickstarter. We'll leave a link in the show notes. And anyways, it's time for your least favorite time, my least favorite time. Go ahead and get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others into the Geekfold. And don't forget to check out that dragon game we just talked about, Drafted Dragon. Anyway, we'll catch you all on the, you guessed it, flip side. Game Relief out.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.